On Christmas morning, my son handed me coffee. "Dad, drink this special brew I made for you." Brett had never made me coffee before, not once, in 42 years. Something felt wrong. His hands trembled. His smile was too wide. When he turned away, I switched my cup with his wife's. 30 minutes later, a horrifying scene unfolded in my living room. "I'm so grateful you're here with me." Before I share what unfolded in those next horrifying minutes, tell me, where are you right now and what time is it? Comment below. I read every single one. My son handed me the coffee with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I've been a literature teacher for 40 years. I know how to read subtext. Brett's smile was bright and wide and completely empty. His eyes told a different story, one I didn't want to believe. It was Christmas morning in Portland, 9 o'clock, and the December drizzle made everything grey. I had driven from Selwood to their place in Hawthorne, past closed cafes and tired holiday lights. 3 years since June died, 3 Christmases without her. This year felt different. "Dad, Merry Christmas." Brett wrapped me in a hug the moment I stepped through the door. Too tight, too enthusiastic. The wrongness hit me as soon as I walked in. Faye sat on their grey couch, wrapped in an oversized cardigan despite the heater running. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "Hi, Dane," she said softly. "Not warm, just flat." "Everything all right, Faye?" "Fine, just tired." She looked away, picking out a thread. Brett moved toward the kitchen. "I'm making coffee, Dad. Your favorite dark roast Colombian, just the way you like it." I followed him. Brett wasn't a coffee person. He drank energy drinks. Faye was the coffee maker in this house, always. "Since when do you make coffee?" I asked. "Since today." Brett's smile again. "Wanted to do something special for you." He pulled out 2 identical white mugs, poured black coffee into both. His hand trembled slightly as he held one out to me. "I made this one special for you, Dad." I took it, feeling the heat through ceramic. Brett stood there, watching me, waiting. That's when my teacher instincts kicked in. 40 years of watching students try to hide things. You develop a radar. Every alarm in my head was screaming. I glanced at Faye's mug on the coffee table. Same white ceramic, same dark liquid. Brett turned away to grab the TV remote. "Let me put on the Trailblazers game." In those 3 seconds, I made a decision I didn't understand. My hand moved on its own, reaching across the coffee table, switching the mugs, mine to Faye's spot, hers to mine. "Here you go, Faye," I said, offering her what had been my mug. "Brett made this especially for you." She looked up, confused, but took it, "Thanks." Brett spun around. The color drained from his face like someone pulled a plug. His eyes locked on the mug in Faye's hand. "Wait, Dad." That's he stopped himself. I looked at him, Ellie. Looked at him, that's what, nothing. He swallowed hard. "I just wanted you to try those specific beans from that roster on Division." "Specific beans?" I repeated. "Yeah, the one you like." I'd never mentioned a roster on Division. We both knew it. The room went silent except for the heater clicking. Faye raised the mug to her lips, taking a small sip. Brett's knuckles went white around the remote. I stood in my son's living room on Christmas morning, watching him watch his wife drink coffee that was meant for me, and I understood what foulness meant about the human heart, in conflict with itself. My heart was breaking. So was Brett's, but for very different reasons. Brett froze. His face went pale. And in that moment, I knew whatever was in that coffee, it wasn't meant for Faye. I settled back into my chair and waited to see what would happen next. For the next 25 minutes, I watched my son like a scientist observing a dangerous experiment. I stayed in my chair, sipping the coffee Brett had poured for himself. Bitter, safe, ordinary, which meant everything wrong was in Faye's cup. Brett perched on the couch, edged knee, bouncing. Every 30 seconds, he checked his watch, then glanced at Faye, then back to his watch, like he was timing something. 10 minutes in, he disappeared into the kitchen. I heard his voice low and urgent. Words I couldn't make out, but the desperation was clear when he returned. His face was chalk white. 15 minutes. Faye set down her mug. "I feel strange," she said quietly. Brett's head snapped toward her. "Strange how dizzy and my heart feels fast." I leaned forward. "Faye, look at me." Dilated pupils, shallow breathing. "How fast?" "Really fast." Her hand pressed against her chest like I just ran stairs. Brett paced behind the couch. "They've that flu going around." "This isn't flu," I said flatly. 20 minutes. Sweat appeared on Faye's forehead, Her hand trembled against her face. 25 minutes. Her skin went from flushed to pale in seconds. 30 minutes. She gasped, both hands clutching her chest. Brett, her voice strangled. My heart. Something's really wrong. Faye. Brett dropped to his knees beside her, hands hovering uselessly. His panic looked almost convincing. Almost. Call 911. I said, cold and clear. Now Brett fumbled, his phone shaking. Yes, my wife. She's having some kind of attack. While he gave the address, I watched Faye. Rapid, shallow breathing, lips losing color. This was cardiac distress. The paramedics arrived fast. 2 of them efficient and calm, loading Faye onto a gurney. Heart rate 140. One called out. BP 190. Over 110. They wheeled her out. Brett stopped at the door, looking back. Dad, are you coming? I'll meet you there. The door closed. The house went silent except for the heater's hum. I stood there staring at the coffee table. 2 mugs, mine empty, safe, and Faye is still half full. In the kitchen, I found paper towels in a Ziploc bag in their junk drawer. I moved slowly, deliberately, wrapped the mug Faye had drunk from my mug, the one Brett made special in paper towels, sealed it in plastic. Evidence. I stood alone in my son's living room holding that sealed bag and understood something with absolute clarity. Brett hadn't just tried to hurt me, he'd tried to kill me. And now I had proof. Providence Portland Medical Center smelled like antiseptic and bad news. I drove straight from Brett's house, the Ziploc bag sitting on my passenger seat, like evidence at a crime scene, through downtown Portland, past Christmas decorations that now looked wrong, to the hospital where F.A. was fighting for her life, because of coffee meant for me. Brett sat in the ERA waiting area, head down, staring at his phone. When I sat 3 seats away, he didn't look up. We waited 2 hours in silence. He never asked how I was, never met my eyes. Finally, a doctor emerged. Mid-40s, tired eyes, storm grey scrubs, Marsh family. He gestured us toward a private room. I'm Dr. Seth Ford. Mrs. Marsh is stable, but we found something concerning. What do you mean? Brett's voice cracked. Dr. Ford pulled up a chart. Her blood work shows toxic levels of stimulants. Heart rate was 148 when she arrived. Blood pressure, dangerously high. We're running more tests to identify the exact substances, but I can tell you this. These levels don't happen by accident. This is deliberate poisoning. Brett shot to his feet. That's impossible. She just drank coffee. Just coffee. Dr. Ford's tone made it sound like an accusation. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the Ziploc bag. I switched cups with F.A. before drinking. This is what my son gave me. The room went dead silent. Dad, what are you? Brett's face drained of color. This needs to be tested, I said to Dr. Ford. He took the bag, studying the wrap mug inside. I'm calling the police. This is a criminal matter. He can't be serious, Brett said, voice shaking. This is insane. I didn't do anything. You made that coffee for me, I said quietly. And 30 minutes after Faye drank it, she was in cardiac distress. 20 minutes later, Detective Joslane arrived. Mid-40s, short, dark hair, sharp eyes that catalogued everything. She separated us for interviews. First, Faye in her hospital room. Through the door, I heard her weak voice. I don't understand what happened. I just drank the coffee Brett made. Then Brett in another room, his voice rising defensive. This is a misunderstanding, an overreaction. Absolutely ridiculous. Finally, my turn. Detective Lane sat across from me in a small office. Mr. Marsh walked me through this morning. Every detail, I've told her everything. Brett's empty smile. The coffee phase silence. The instinct that made me switch cups. Why did you switch them? She asked. Piff, I've been reading People for 40 years, detective. Everything about my son was wrong. I slid the Ziploc bag across the table. This was meant for me. She picked it up, studied it with careful attention. Then she looked at me and I saw recognition in her eyes. Not of me, of the situation. She'd seen this before. Mr. Marsh, she said quietly, I think we need to have a very long conversation, and I'll need you both to come to the station once we have the lab results back. She paused, weighing the bag in her hand, because if what I suspect is true, your son didn't just try to make you sick. Her eyes met mine, and I saw the truth there before she spoke it. He tried to kill you. 48 hours later, the lab results came back, and they were worse than I'd imagined. Detective Joe's Lane spread the papers across the table between us. The interrogation room at Portland's Central smelled like burnt coffee and bad news. 4G of pure caffeine, she said. That's 40 shots of espresso in one cup. For someone your age, Mr. Marsh, you'd have been dead within an hour. I stared at the number on the page. Forgive, such a small thing to stop a heart. There's more, Lane continued. 200 milligrams of ephedrine. It amplifies the caffeine's effect. Whoever made this knew exactly what they were doing. He paused. His son studied chemistry, didn't he? He minored in it at Reed College, I said. My voice sounded far away. Lane slid another paper toward me. We found a life insurance policy. $500,000 taken out on you in October. Beneficiary, Brett Marsh. The room got smaller. I never signed that. We know. Our forensic analyst confirmed it yesterday. The signatures are forgery. She turned her laptop toward me. We also found emails between your son and a man named Cruz Kent. Kent's a document forger. The emails go back to September, 3 months before Christmas morning. I need you to read these, Lane said quietly. The first email was dated September 18th. Brett to Kent. Need clean signature replication. Life insurance docs. High accuracy required. Discretion essential. The reply came 4 days later. Understood. We'll need 5-6 signature samples. Price dollars half up front. Then October 3rd. The one that made my hand shake. Policy needs to look natural. He has heart history. Make it look like age and stress. I read that line twice. He has heart history. I don't have heart problems. My physical in July came back perfect. Dr. Vaughn had joked about my outliving everyone. Brett had been there. He'd laughed. But he'd told this Kent person I had a bad heart. He'd lied to make my death look expected, natural. When did he decide? I asked about the coffee. Lane pointed to another email. December 10th. Docs are perfect. Christmas morning family tradition. He always comes alone. Window 9:10 a.m. I sat back in the chair. Somewhere down the hall, a phone kept ringing. My son had planned to kill me on Christmas morning, had bought the caffeine, paid $8,000 for a forged signature, invited me to breakfast, knowing he'd serve me poison in a cup he brewed himself. I had taught him to read, walked him to his first day of kindergarten, sat in the bleachers at every little league game, helped him write his college essays, cried at his wedding to Faye. We're building a case for attempted murder and insurance fraud. Lane said, these emails, the lab results, the forensic analysis, it's strong evidence. We'll need you to testify. I looked at the email on the screen again. He has heart history. Make it look natural. I thought about Brett at 7 years old crying because he'd stepped on a beetle. Brett at 15 volunteering at the animal shelter every weekend. Brett at 22 calling me at midnight because he'd gotten his first real job and wanted me to be the first to know. Then I looked back at the words on the screen. I thought I knew my son. I said I was wrong. Lane closed the laptop. There's more we need to discuss about why he did this, but that's for tomorrow. She stood. Go home, Mr. Marsh. Get some rest. I walked out into the cold December afternoon. The rain had started again. I didn't know the man who'd written those emails, and maybe I never had, but insurance fraud wasn't the whole story. Detective Lane dug deeper, and what she found explained everything. She called me on December 29th, the day after I'd read Brett's emails. Mr. Marsh, we need to talk about your son's finances. I drove back to the precinct. Lane had spreadsheets covering her desk. Online poker, she said. Brett lost $180,000 in 8 months. Money from joint accounts with FA, credit cards, personal loans. She slid a printed email across the table, and then this. The email was from an anonymous address. No name, just numbers. December 10th, 2 weeks before Christmas. Mr. Marsh, you have 2 weeks to pay $150,000. If not, we take collateral. Your wife is beautiful. Would be a shame if something happened to her or your father. I read it twice. Loan sharks. The worst kind. Lane said the insurance money was his only way out. $500,000. Enough to pay them off and still have something left. I sat back in the chair. He was going to kill me to pay off gambling debts. Lane nodded. We have enough for an arrest warrant. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, document forgery. When I asked, tomorrow morning, the next day, December 30th, I followed the police to Brett's house. It was 6 a.m. still dark outside. I don't know why I went. Maybe I needed to see it for myself. Lane knocked. Brett opened the door, and his bathrobe face pale like he hadn't slept in days. "Brett Marsh, you're under arrest for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and document forgery." Two officers moved forward with handcuffs. Brett's eyes found mine over Lane's shoulder. "Dad, please tell them this is a mistake. You know me. I would never." "I don't know you," I said. My voice came out cold, steady. "Not anymore." Faye ran down the stairs. "What's happening, Brett? What did you do?" Lane turned to her. "Your husband tried to poison his father for insurance money." Faye's legs gave out. She grabbed the doorframe. No, that's not Brett." But Brett was looking at me. "Dad, please." The officers led him to the patrol car. His voice carried across the lawn. Dad, please." I got in my truck and drove home to... That afternoon, I sat alone in my living room. The house was too quiet. I looked at the photos on the wall. June Brett. As a kid, Christmas mornings from years ago. I thought about Quinn Blake. She'd been my student 10 years back before she went into social work. After June died, Quinn had checked on me every week for months. Brought groceries, fixed my porch. Lights sat with me when the silence got too heavy. "You're stronger than you think, Mr. Marsh," she'd told me once. I didn't feel strong now. I felt empty. The doorbell rang at 7. I opened it to find Quinn standing there holding a bag of soup and bread. "Mr. Marsh," she said, "I saw the news. I came as soon as I could, and for the first time since Christmas morning, I cried." Quinn stepped inside and hugged me. I broke down. "I put my own son in jail." "Quinn, no," she said quietly. "He put himself there when he poisoned your coffee. You just survived, and that's what matters." That night, I lay awake in the house where I'd raised Brett, where I taught him to ride a bike on that driveway, where I'd read him bedtime stories in the room upstairs, and I wondered, when did I lose him? Was it the first bet he placed, the first lie he told, or had I lost him years ago and just never noticed? 3 months later, on a cold March morning, I walked into Multnomah County Courthouse to testify against my own son. Quinn came with me. She'd been coming by twice a week since December, bringing groceries, checking on me, sitting with me when the silence got too heavy. Today, she sat in the gallery behind the prosecution table. Her presence the only thing keeping me steady. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, curious locals, law students taking notes, and Brett. I hadn't seen him since his arrest. He lost at least 20 pounds. His face was gaunt, beard, unkempt eyes hollow. The orange jumpsuit hung off his shoulders. When our eyes met, his lips moved. "Dad," I looked away. "All rise," the bailiff called. Judge Vera Blake entered, her grey hair pulled back, expression unreadable. Prosecutor Beth Stone stood. She was 50, silver-haired, sharp as a blade. "This is a case about greed, betrayal, and a son who tried to murder his father for $500,000. Defense. Attorney Wade Grant countered, younger grey suit desperation in his voice. "This is a case about a desperate man who made terrible mistakes, but never intended to kill anyone." Stone called me first. "The state calls Dean Marsh." My hands shook as I took the witness stand. The oath felt heavier than it should have. "I do." Stone asked me to describe Christmas morning. I told them about the drive to Hawthorne, the strange atmosphere. Faye's silence. Brett's too wide smile when he handed me the coffee. Something in his eyes told a story I didn't want to believe. I said, "I've taught literature for 40 years. I know how to read subtext." "What did you do?" Stone asked. I looked at Brett. He was crying silently. When he turned away, I switched our cups. I gave my coffee to Faye, because my instincts told me something was wrong, and a father's instincts are rarely mistaken. I described Faye collapsing the ambulance the way I'd wrapped the coffee cup in a Ziploc bag. When I got to Brett's whispered phone call, the plan failed. She drank it instead. My voice cracked. "What did you think when you heard that?" Stone asked. I looked straight at Brett. "I thought my son had tried to kill me." Stone presented the emails, the forged insurance policy, the lab results. 4g of caffeine, 200 milligrams of No further questions, Your Honor. Judge Blake nodded. Defense may... Wade Grant approached me, expression sympathetic, calculated. "Mr. Marsh, isn't it possible you misheard what your son said on the phone?" "No, but you were stressed. Your daughter-in-law had just collapsed. Couldn't stress affect your perception?" "I know what I heard," I said. "He said the plan failed. She drank it instead." Couldn't that refer to something else? A Christmas surprise that went wrong, combined with everything else, the forged insurance policy, the poison in the coffee. I shook my head. No, that wasn't a Christmas surprise. Grant kept pushing, trying to make me doubt my memory, my perception, my interpretation. But I'd had 3 months to replay that morning in my head. 3 months of therapy with Dr. Fiona Caldwell, who'd helped me understand that grief and certainty could coexist. I know what I heard, I repeated. I know what he did. Grant finally sat down. As I stepped down from the witness stand, legs trembling, I couldn't look at Brett. Behind me, I heard Prosecutor Stone say, "The state calls Dr. Seth Ford." This trial was far from over, and so was my nightmare. 2 days later, after testimony from Dr. Seth Ford, Detective Joe's Lane Fay, and a forensic handwriting expert, the jury was sent out to deliberate. Day 2 had been brutal. Dr. Ford walked the jury through the toxicology report. 4 grams of caffeine, 200 milligrams of ephedrine, enough to stop a heart in minutes. Detective Lane presented emails, forged insurance documents, and the timeline Brett had built over 3 months. Every step planned, every move deliberate. Then Fay took the stand. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I trusted him, I loved him, and he almost killed me by mistake." The forensic handwriting expert confirmed what we already knew. The signature on the insurance policy wasn't mine. Brett never testified. His attorney advised against it. On day 3, closing arguments began. Prosecutor Stone's voice was steel. This defendant planned to murder his father for money. He forged documents. He purchased poison. He brewed that coffee knowing it could kill. The only reason D.N.E. Marsh is alive is because he trusted his instincts and switched cups. Defense attorney Grunt tried to soften the blow. My client made terrible mistakes. He gambled, he lied, but he never intended to kill anyone. He was desperate under pressure from loan sharks, not thinking clearly. At noon, Judge Blake sent the jury out. Quinn and I waited in the hallway. 4 hours crawled by. I drank bad vending machine coffee and stared at the floor, unable to think. Then the bailiff appeared. "The jury has reached a verdict." We returned to the courtroom. My heart pounded. Brett sat at the defense table, hands glazed, face drained of color. Judge Blake entered. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The 4 persons stood calm and steady. "We have, Your Honor." The clerk read the first charge. Attempted murder. Guilty. A breath left the room all at once. Somewhere behind me, Faye sobbed. I felt nothing, just emptiness. Insurance fraud. Guilty. Document forgery. Guilty. Judge Blake struck the gavel. Brett folded forward, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. 2 weeks later, we returned for sentencing. "Brett Marsh," Judge Blake said, "you are sentenced to 15 years in the Oregon State Penitentiary for attempted murder, 5 years for insurance fraud, and 3 years for document forgery to run concurrently. You will be eligible for parole after serving 10 years. The bailiff stepped forward. Brett turned and looked at me one last time. His lips trembled. "I'm sorry, Dad." I said nothing. I only nodded once. Not forgiveness, acknowledgement. Then he was gone. The courtroom emptied slowly. I remained seated, unable to move. Quinn sat beside me. "Mr. Marsh, it's over." I shook my head. "No, it's just beginning." In the hallway, Prosecutor Stone shook my hand. "Justice was served today." "Was it?" I asked quietly. "My son is going to prison for 15 years. Where's the justice in that?" She didn't answer. Outside, Portland's gray drizzle soaked the courthouse steps. My family was shattered. F.A. had moved back to Seattle and filed for divorce within a week. And me, I didn't know how to rebuild a life, destroyed by poison and greed. Quinn walked beside me in silence. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You survive," she said, "one day at a time." I nodded, but driving back to the empty house in Selwood, one question wouldn't leave me. How do you survive when the person who tried to kill you is the same one you once read bedtime stories to? The first 6 months after the trial were the hardest of my life. I didn't sleep. Every night I dreamed about Christmas morning, Brett's smile, the coffee cup Faye collapsing. Sometimes I dreamed about Brett as a child riding his bike down our driveway laughing. Then the dream would shift, and he'd be in prison, orange, crying behind bars. Quinn came every Sunday. She'd bring soup and bread from the local bakery, sit with me in the quiet house, never pushing me to talk. One Sunday in early May, she looked at me across the kitchen table. "Mr. Marsh, you've lost 15 pounds. You're not sleeping. You need to talk to someone, a professional." "I'm fine, Quinn." "No," she said gently. "You're not. Please." The next week, I called Dr. Fiona Caldwell. She specialized in elder abuse, trauma. The first session was brutal. I sat silent for 20 minutes. You don't have to speak if you're not ready. Dr. Caldwell said she was 50, kind eyes, no nonsense demeanor. But I want you to know what happened to you wasn't your fault. How could it not be? My voice cracked. I raised him. You raised a child. He made his own choices as an adult. That distinction, it took me months to understand it. In mid-May, FA called, DDN, can I visit? She came to Portland on a rainy Saturday. She'd lost weight, 2 eyes swollen from crying. We sat in my living room, both of us damaged by the same man. I'm so sorry, she whispered. If I'd known. I hugged her. This isn't your fault, Faye. You're a victim too, she cried. He almost killed you. He almost killed me. I keep thinking, what if you hadn't switched those cups? But I did. We both survived. That's what matters. She told me she was divorcing Brett, filing the papers next week. I can't be married to someone who tried to murder his own father. I understand. You need to do what's right for you. She went back to Seattle 2 days later. Every month after that, she sent me cards, short notes, thinking of you. By August, I was seeing Dr. Caldwell twice a week. Slowly, I began to open up. Have you thought about turning your experience into something positive? She asked one session. Like what? Helping others. You survived elder abuse. Your story could save lives. I thought about that for a week. In late August, I contacted the Oregon Coalition Against Elder Abuse. They invited me to speak at a community center. 50 seniors sat in folding chairs. My hands shook. My voice broke. My name is Dane Marsh, and my son tried to kill me. The room went silent. I told them everything. The coffee, the poison, the forged insurance policy, the trial. After 3 people came up to me privately. They were being financially abused by their own children. They didn't know what to do. I gave them Dr. Caldwell's number, Detective Lane's contact information, resources. For the first time in 6 months, I felt something other than grief. I felt useful. In September I wrote an essay, The Coffee Cup That Saved My Life, a teacher survival story, posted it on Medium. Within 2 weeks, it had 50,000 shares. I got hundreds of emails, seniors, families, people saying, thank you for speaking up. One message from a 75-year-old woman in California. Your story made me realize my daughter's been stealing from me for years. Today, I called a lawyer. Thank you for giving me courage. I cried reading that, but not from sadness, from hope. Quinn visited that weekend. She found me smiling for the first time in months. Mr. Marsh, you look different. I feel different. I said, I think I'm going to be okay. As the second Christmas since the incident approached, I realized something had changed inside me. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of Brett, not of coffee, not of Christmas mornings. I was just ready. Ready to try again. Ready to live. 2 years after my son tried to kill me, I woke up on Christmas morning without fear. The house was quiet. No nightmares had come the night before. Just sleep. Deep, dreamless, peaceful. I walked downstairs at 7 o'clock. Portland's grey light filtered through the kitchen windows. Drizzle tapped softly against the glass. The same drizzle that had fallen 2 years ago. I opened the cabinet and pulled out the coffee dark roast Colombian blend, the same kind Brett had used. But this time, I'd bought it myself. I'd brewed it myself, and I would drink it without hesitation. While the coffee maker gurgled, I sat at the kitchen table and saw the envelope. Oregon State Penitentiary stamp. Brett's handwriting. The 3rd letter in 2 years. The first one 6 months ago I hadn't opened, just put it in a drawer. The second one 3 months ago I'd read, but didn't answer. This time I unfolded the page. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just need you to know I think about you every day. About what I did. About who I used to be. I'm getting help here. Therapy twice a week. Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I'm learning about addiction. About the lies I told myself. I don't know how I became that person, but I'm trying to become someone else now. Someone you wouldn't have to be ashamed of. Maybe one day, years from now, you'll write back. Or maybe you won't. Either way, I need you to know I'm sorry for everything. Brett. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer with the others. I didn't cry. I'd done enough crying. Maybe someday, Brett, I whispered to the empty kitchen. But not today. At 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Quinn stood on the porch holding a small potted Christmas tree. Behind her, F.A. carried a tin of homemade gingerbread cookies. We thought you shouldn't be alone today, Mr. Marsh, Quinn said. I looked at them. My former student, My former daughter-in-law, not family by blood, but here present, showing up. I smiled, a real smile. Come in, I just made coffee. F.A. hesitated. Are you sure? Sure, I know. Coffee is it's okay, I said. Really? Come in. We sat around the kitchen table. Quinn decorated the little tree, while Faye opened the tin. The smell of ginger and cinnamon filled the room. I poured coffee for all three of us. We laughed. We talked about work, about the week ahead. Quinn told me about a new case at the social services agency. Faye shared news about her job in Seattle. She'd started over, built something new. No one mentioned Brett, not to avoid him, but because today was about the people here, not the person gone. After they left, I sat alone in the quiet house. The little tree blinked its lights on the table. Outside Portland, rain continued its soft, steady rhythm. I thought about June, about the mornings we'd shared in this kitchen. I'm still here, love, I whispered, broken, but here. I thought about Brett in his cell, trying to become someone I might recognize again someday. Maybe in 10 years when he's eligible for parole, I'll be ready. Maybe not. Maybe forgiveness isn't a destination, but a road I'm still walking. Right now, I have Quinn's laughter, Faye's monthly cards, the seniors I speak to each month, the emails from strangers saying I saved their lives. Right now, I have coffee I brew myself, a house that's mine, a life I fought to keep. And for a 70-year-old man who survived his son's attempt to murder him, that's not just enough, it's everything. Looking back at my story now, I realize how close I came to losing everything. Not just my life, but my ability to trust, to love, to hope. If you're reading this, especially if you're a grandparent or a parent dealing with financial pressure from adult children, please don't ignore your instincts like I almost did. That morning, something in Brett's eyes told me a story I didn't want to believe. Thank God I listened. This true story taught me 3 painful lessons. First, elder abuse doesn't discriminate. It happens in loving families, educated families, families like mine. Second, addiction can transform the child you raised into someone unrecognizable. And third, survival isn't the same as healing. I survived that Christmas morning, but healing took 2 years of therapy, community support, and faith that God had a purpose for my pain. If I could give one piece of advice from these grandpa stories I've shared at senior centers across Oregon, trust your gut. If something feels wrong with your coffee, your documents, your family dynamics, investigate. Don't let love blind you to danger. God gave us instincts for a reason. My true story isn't about revenge or bitterness. It's about rebuilding, about finding peace when happiness seems impossible, about chosen family, Quinth, the strangers who would mail me, filling the spaces where blood family failed. I'm 70 years old. My son is in prison. And somehow, by God's grace, I'm still here to tell these grandpa stories, hoping they might save someone else's life. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel for more true stories of survival and resilience. And if you know an elderly loved one who might benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. Your comment or share could save a life. Thank you for listening to my story. God bless you all. My daughter spent Christmas with her mother and rich stepfather. I spent it alone fixing broken cars in my cold garage. When she came back, I asked if she had fun. She looked at me with disgust and said, "I'm moving in with Mom. I need a real father, not someone stuck in this old garage." I stood there, tears burning my eyes, heart shattered. She didn't even look back as she walked away. Or she didn't. No. I'd turned down a $500,000 job offer in Tokyo 5 times because I wanted to stay and raise her. That night, I made one click that would make her regret everything she chose. Before I tell you what happened next, I'm grateful you're here. If you've ever been told you weren't enough, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. You're not alone. My name is Drew Carter, and the night my daughter came home from Christmas with her mother and stepfather, she looked at me like I was a stranger. Not the kind of stranger you're cautious around, the kind you're embarrassed to know. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It was December 26th, late, the kind of Seattle night where the cold seeps through the walls. I was in the garage working on a '98 Honda Civic. $55 an hour doesn't sound like much, but it adds up when you're consistent. The garage was small, oil stains on concrete, a space heater humming in the corner. Christmas lights blinked above the workbench. Rachel had strung them up years ago when she was 10. An old radio played Bing Crosby. On the bench sat a photo. Rachel at 10, sitting on my shoulders at Pike Place Market, grinning. Back then, I was her hero. I glanced at the turkey container in the corner. Leftovers from yesterday's Christmas dinner. Frozen turkey microwaved and eaten alone. While Rachel spent the day at her mother's new life, Kira had remarried some CEO named Andrew Kingsley. Penthouse downtown. The kind of guy who wore cuffs. Rachel had been staying with me since she was 13. After the divorce, Kira didn't fight for custody, so I became the one who braided hair, signed permission slips, and sat through school plays. What Rachel didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I wasn't always a mechanic. I used to be an engineer, mechanical engineering, specializing in sustainable propulsion systems. I have a patent, a hybrid engine design that cuts fuel consumption by 40%. Toyota wanted it. Mitsubishi too. Tesla called me 3 times. 380,000 a year from Tesla, 420 from Toyota, 450 from Mitsubishi. I turned them all down because those jobs meant travel. Late nights in boardrooms, missing soccer games and parent-teacher conferences. So, I did what I had to do. I became a mechanic. I opened a garage. I traded a corner office for a space heater and Bing Crosby on repeat. And I never told Rachel. Never told her that the guy with grease under his fingernails once had a seat at tables where decisions worth millions were made. I figured it didn't matter. I was her dad. That was enough. Or so I thought. The wrench slipped in my hand. I cursed, shook it out, and was about to get back to work when I heard it. A car door. Heavy, expensive, the kind of sound a luxury sedan makes when it closes, solid, seamless, like money itself shutting tight. I set down the wrench, wiped my hands. Footsteps on the driveway. Heels. Click, click, click. I looked toward the open garage door, and there she was. Rachel. She stood in the doorway like she'd walked onto the wrong set. Black evening gown. Designer. Bag. Heels that clicked against concrete like a judge's gavel. Her makeup was flawless. And the perfume. God, the perfume. It smelled expensive. The kind that doesn't belong in a garage that reeks of oil and old coffee. She looked around at the stained floor, the flickering Christmas lights, the space heater. Her face said everything. Her mouth hadn't yet. Disgust, pity, shame. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "How was Christmas?" She didn't smile, didn't move closer, just stood there, framed by the cold night air, looking at me like I was something she needed to step around. "It was incredible," she said. Clinical. Andrew took us to his private estate. Westlake chef, prepared Christmas dinner, filet mignon, lobster bisque, a live orchestra, champagne from France. I nodded, kept my face neutral. "Sounds nice." "It was more than nice, Dad. It was what Christmas is supposed to be. Not," she gestured at the garage. At me at this, I felt something tighten in my chest. Small, sharp. "Mom and Andrew spent the whole day talking to me," she continued. Her voice was steady, too steady. About my future, about what I deserve, about how I've been settling for less my whole life. "Settling?" I repeated. "Yes, settling." The word hung between us. "Dad, I've made a decision. I'm moving in with Mom and Andrew." The wrench in my hand felt heavier than it should. "What?" I said quietly. "Rachel, this is your home." "Ben, this isn't a home." Her voice cut through mine. "It's a garage with a bed upstairs. I'm 25. I need to grow. I need a real father figure in my life. Someone successful. Someone who can teach me about the world. Not someone who fixes cars for $55 an hour and eats frozen turkey alone on Christmas." That one landed right in the gut. My hand tightened around the rag. "You knew I was alone yesterday?" "Yes." She didn't blink, and I didn't come back, because I was finally experiencing what a real Christmas should be. Andrew showed me what real success looks like. He's a CEO. He has power, influence, connections. "And you?" She looked me up and down. "You're still here, covered in grease, barely scraping by." I swallowed. "Is that really how you feel?" "Yes." She turned her face away, couldn't look at me when she said it. "I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I'm embarrassed, Dad. I'm embarrassed to tell people what you do. This isn't the life I want." She adjusted her bag, straightened her shoulders. "I'll come back for my things next week." Then she turned. Those heels clicked across the driveway. 1, 2, 3. The car door opened. Closed, clean, final. I stood there alone. The space heater hummed. Bing Crosby still sang on the radio. The photo of Rachel at 10 stared at me from the workbench. I looked at it for a long time. Then I turned off the lights, locked the garage, walked into the house. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Inside the kitchen was dark, cold, the kind of cold that settles in when you realize you're the only one left. I stood there in the silence, and I made a decision of my own. The house felt colder than usual. Not the kind of cold a thermostat fixes, but the kind that creeps in when you realize you're the only one left. I sat alone at the kitchen table. My hands were clean, yet they still smelled of motor oil. Some things refused to wash away. The laptop waited in front of me, old and slow, kept because it still worked, not because I liked it. I opened it. The screen flickered, throwing a pale glow across the dark kitchen. My inbox loaded painfully slow. One email sat at the top, from Dr. Kenji Takahashi, subject, final offer, lead engineer position. I stared at it longer than I meant to. I'd seen that message before, 5 times, once each year for the past 5 years. Dr. Takahashi was persistent. Tokyo Institute of Technology, sustainable energy. They wanted me to lead a team building next-generation hybrid propulsion systems. I clicked it open. The words were familiar praise for my patent, an offer to lead their project. A salary of $485,000 a year, housing included. A reminder that the world needed minds like mine. Below it were 4 older emails. Same subject, same offer. And beside each one, my own scanned notes, written by hand. 2020, can't leave Rachel. She's starting college. 2021, can't leave Rachel. She needs stability. 2022, can't leave Rachel. Not now. 2022, can't leave Rachel. 2022, can't leave Rachel. 5 years, 5 refusals, all for the same reason. Tonight, that reason stood in my doorway and told me I wasn't good enough. Said I wasn't a real father. Said she was embarrassed of me. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Took a slow breath. Maybe she was right. Or maybe it was time I stopped hiding who I really was. I opened my eyes and clicked reply. Dr. Takahashi, I accept your offer. When do I start? Drew Carter. My finger hovered over the button. 5 years of sacrifice balanced on one decision. I clicked send. The email vanished. Done. I closed the laptop and went down to the basement. It smelled of dust and old wood. In the corner beneath the top, I found a small cedar box I'd made years ago. Simple, solid. Back upstairs, I set it on the table and filled it carefully. My patent certificate. Rejection letters from Tesla, Toyota, Mitsubishi, each marked with the same note. Can't leave Rachel. A photo from my workbench. Rachel at 10, riding my shoulders, smiling like the world was hers. A tuition receipt, $92,000. University of Washington, paid in full by a loan I still carried. I took a marker and wrote on the lid, "For Rachel, open when you're ready to see who I really am." I closed the box and placed it on a basement shelf, where she'd find it if she ever came looking. Back in the kitchen, snow drifted past the window, quiet and gentle. I watched my breath fog the glass. Tomorrow my life would change. Tomorrow I would stop being the man Rachel thought I was. But tonight I was still her father, even if she didn't know it yet. I turned off the lights, climbed the stairs, and lay down in bed, calm and steady. For the first time in years, doubt didn't follow me into sleep. I already knew the choice was right. Morning could wait. This ending was enough for now. Tonight mattered. 2 weeks later, I was standing in Tokyo. The city didn't sleep. Neon lights reflected off glass towers. Everything moved fast. Trains, people, the hum of a metropolis that never stopped. But somehow it felt quieter than Seattle, calmer. I lived in a small apartment near the Institute, 1 bedroom, a window overlooking a narrow street where salarymen passed by every morning. It wasn't much, but it was mine. At the Tokyo Institute of Technology, I was lead engineer for the Sustainable Energy Division. My job was to take the hybrid propulsion system I designed and turn it into something real. The team was small, 6 engineers, all Japanese, all brilliant. They treated me with a level of respect I hadn't felt in years. They called me Carter-sensei, Teacher Carter. Every morning they bowed when I walked in, not because I asked them to, because that's what you do when you respect someone. Dr. Takahashi stopped by often. One afternoon he pulled me aside. "Carter-san," he said, "we are fortunate to have you." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. He smiled, then he bowed. This was what it felt like, to be valued. Not for who you were supposed to be, but for what you could do. 3 months in, we completed phase 1. The prototype engine ran cleaner, faster, and 42% more efficient than anything on the market. A week later, the press picked it up. American engineer revolutionizes sustainable energy in Tokyo. The article ran in Scientific American, then Wired, then the Tokyo Times. Her name was in every headline. I didn't feel proud, I just felt seen. Life fell into a rhythm. I worked. I meditated in a small park near my apartment. I ate ramen at the corner shop where the owner always added an extra egg. I sent money back to the States every month, $972, to the bank in Seattle. The loan for Rachel's tuition, $92,000. I'd been paying it off for 6 years because that's what fathers do, even when their daughters don't call. I didn't reach out to Rachel, didn't text, didn't email. I told myself it was because I needed space, but the truth was simpler. She'd made her choice. I'd made mine. One night, I sat on the edge of my bed and pulled out the photo I'd brought. Rachel at 10, Pike Place, Market. Her on my shoulders, both of us smiling. I stared at it for a long time. She made her choice. I made mine. I set the photo down, didn't cry, didn't feel sorry for myself, just let it go. 4 months in, I received the Innovation Award from the Japan Society of Mechanical Engineers. The ceremony was held in Shibuya. 200 people in the audience. Dr. Takahashi handed me a glass plaque with my name engraved in both English and Japanese. I stood at the podium, looked out at the crowd, and for a split second, I thought Rachel would never believe this, but she wasn't there, and that was okay. I gave my speech, bowed, walked off stage. That night, I went home, opened my laptop, checked my email. My phone buzzed. A new message. Send her unknown. Subject, legal notice. Carter versus Morgan Carter. I frowned, clicked it open, and everything stopped. My hand was shaking when I opened that email. 2 words at the top, legal notice. I stared at the screen, reading it over and over, like maybe the words would change if I looked long enough. It didn't. It was from a law firm in Seattle, Bergman and Associates. The message was short, direct, cold. I was being sued by Rachel and by Kira. The claims: abandonment of a dependent adult, failure to provide emotional support, causing financial hardship. They were asking for monetary damages, division of assets, and legal fees. The court date was set for 3 weeks out. King County Courthouse, Seattle. If I didn't show up, they'd win by default. I read it 3 times. Then I sat back in my chair and just stared at nothing. She's suing me. After everything, my chest felt tight, like someone had reached in and grabbed hold of something I didn't know could break. Rachel was 25. She had a degree. She told me to my face she didn't need me, and now she was claiming I abandoned her. I was still paying off her college tuition, $972 a month, every month for 6 years. I picked up my phone and called, the only person I could think of. Samuel Edwards answered on the second ring. Drew Carter, he said, surprised. It's been forever. What's going on? Sam and I went to college together, MIT. He'd gone into law. We'd lost touch, but I knew he had his own practice in Seattle now. I need a lawyer, Sam. His tone shifted. All business. Talk to me, please. So I did. I told him about the email, the lawsuit, Rachel, Christmas, Tokyo, everything. There was a long silence on the other end. All right, Sam said finally. Here's what I know. Andrew Kingsley, the guy Kira married, he went down hard about 2 months ago. Financial fraud, insider trading. The feds froze everything. His company collapsed overnight. Kira divorced him the same week. He paused, and Rachel lost a job, lost her apartment. She's got nothing. My stomach dropped. They're broke, Drew. Sam continued. And they're suing you because they think you're still just a mechanic scraping by on $55 an hour. They have no idea you're in Tokyo. No idea you're making almost $500,000 a year. They think this is easy money. I closed my eyes, took a slow breath. What do I do? You come back, Sam said. You'll show up to that courthouse with every piece of evidence you've got. Emails, contracts, loan statements, patent certificates, everything. You let the truth speak for itself. He paused. But if you don't show up, they win. You understand that? Yeah, I said quietly. I understand. So, What's it going to be? I looked out the window. Tokyo stretched out below me. Neon lights, glass towers, a city that had given me respect, a second chance. But Rachel was still my daughter, even if she didn't act like it anymore. I'm not running, Sam, I said. I'm coming back. And this time, I'm bringing everything. Good, Sam said. Because it's time she learned who you really are. I spent the next 2 hours printing documents, emails I'd rejected from Tesla, Toyota, Mitsubishi, the patent certificate, my Tokyo Institute contract, bank statements showing the loan payments. All of it went into a thick binder. Then I booked a flight 4 days out that would give me 2 weeks to prepare before the hearing. I stood at the window one last time, looked out at the city lights. Time to face the truth. Rachel, I said quietly. Then I turned off the lights and started packing. A week later, I landed in Seattle. The rain was colder than I remembered. I went straight to Samuel Edwards' office, a friend from my old engineering days who'd become a lawyer. Sam had reviewed the case and was waiting for me. Drew, he said, shaking my hand. This is uglier than I thought. Andrew Kingsley filed for bankruptcy 3 months ago with legal investments, and he vanished. Just left. Kira divorced him. Rachel lost her job. And now they're broke, so they turned to you. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest. They think I'm still the guy fixing cars for $55 an hour. Exactly, Sam said. They don't know. Your lead engineer in Tokyo making nearly $500,000 a year. They think you abandoned Rachel, and now they want money. But here's the thing. We need witnesses. People who saw you raise her. So I went to work. First I drove to the old garage where I used to work. Gary Henderson, the owner, was under a Dodge pickup when I walked in. He slid out, saw me, and his face split onto a grin. Drew Carter thought you were in Japan. I explained the lawsuit. His grin disappeared. They're suing you after everything you did. He wiped his hands on a rag. Testify. I watched you turn down job offers from Tesla, Toyota, Mitsubishi, all because you wanted to be home for Rachel. You're the best dad I know. Next, I visited Mrs. Barbara Stone, my old neighbor. She lived 2 houses down from the place Rachel and I used to rent. She invited me in, made tea, and listened. Those people, she said, shaking her head. I lived next to you for 10 years, Drew. I watched you raise that girl alone. Every morning you made her breakfast. Every night you helped with homework. I saw her maybe twice in a decade. She sat down her teacup. I'll be there. Then I called Principal Janet Peterson, Rachel's old middle school principal. I explained what was happening. Mr. Carter, she said, you were the most involved parent I ever saw in 30 years of teaching. You never missed a parent-teacher conference. Never missed a school play, I'll testify. Finally, I went to the bank. Mr. Warren Fields, the loan manager, pulled up my account. Mr. Carter, you took out a $92,000 personal loan for Rachel's University of Washington tuition in 2018. You'd been paying $972 a month for 6 years. Never late. I'll provide the documents. By the end of the week, Sam and I had everything. Rejection, emails, my patent certificate, my Tokyo contract, tuition bills, utility, receipts. We assembled it all into a thick binder. Sam put a hand on my shoulder. You've got a strong case, Drew, but are you ready to face Rachel in court? I looked him straight in the eye. I've been ready since she told me I wasn't good enough. The next morning, I stood outside the King County Courthouse holding the binder Sam and I had put together. It was heavy, not just the paper, but what it represented. 12 years, every sacrifice. I took a deep breath and walked through the doors. The courtroom smelled like old wood and floor polish. Small, plain, wooden benches, a judge's bench at the front, an American flag in the corner. I walked in. Sam was already at the defense table. He nodded. Then I saw her, Rachel. She was sitting at the Pliffs table with Kira and their lawyer, Kyle Stevens. Expensive suit, sharp, confident. Rachel didn't look at me. Her hands were folded in her lap, shaking. Next to her, Kira sat up straight. Perfect makeup, perfect hair. I sat down next to Sam, set the binder on the table. You good? Sam whispered. I nodded. A side door opened. Everyone stood. Judge Sharon Bradley walked in, 60 gray hair pulled back, glasses on her nose. She looked like someone who'd seen every kind of lie and didn't have patience for any of them. She sat. We sat. Case number 2024, CV8472. She said, Carter versus Morgan and Carter. Alleged abandonment and financial neglect. She looked at Kyle Stevens. Counsel for the plaintiffs, you may present. Kyle stood, buttoned his jacket. Your Honor, he began. Drew Carter abandoned his daughter Rachel when she needed him most. He left for Japan without notice, cut off all communication, left Rachel emotionally devastated and financially struggling. He gestured toward Rachel. Ms. Carter lost her job, lost her home, lost her sense of security, all because her father chose his career over her. Judge Bradley looked at Rachel. Ms. Carter, you may testify. Rachel stood, walked to the witness stand. The bailiff swore her in. Kyle nodded at her. Can you tell the court what happened? Rachel's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. My dad just disappeared, she said. Tears rolled down her face. One day he was there, the next he was gone. He didn't even say goodbye. She wiped her eyes. I was going through the hardest time of my life. I lost my job, had nowhere to go. I needed him. I needed my father. Her voice cracked, but he chose Tokyo over me. Judge Bradley made a note, looked at Kira. Mrs. Morgan, you may testify. Kira stood, walked to the stand, confident. Kyle asked her the same question. Kira looked directly at me. Your Honor, she said, Drew always put his work before his family. That's why we divorced 12 years ago. He was never there emotionally. He worked all the time. Rachel deserved better. The courtroom was quiet. Judge Bradley looked at me. Mr. Carter, she said, you've heard the allegations. How do you respond? Did you abandon your daughter? I stood up slowly. Rachel still wouldn't look at me, kept her eyes on the table. I turned toward the judge. My voice was calm, steady. No, Your Honor, I said. I did not abandon my daughter. I picked up the binder, held it up, and I have evidence to prove otherwise. Your Honor, he said, may I present Mr. Carter's evidence? Judge Bradley nodded. Proceed. I stood, pulled out the first document. Your Honor, this is a text message from Rachel sent, December 26th, the night she told me she was leaving. I read it aloud. Dad, I'm moving in with Mom and Andrew. I don't need you anymore. I need a real father figure, someone successful, not someone who fixes cars for $55 an hour. I looked up at the judge. Rachel told me directly that she didn't need me. She chose to leave. I set the message down, pulled out the next stack. These are tuition receipts from the University of Washington. $92,000. I took out a personal loan to pay for Rachel's college education. I'm still paying it off. $972 a month every month for 6 years. I slid the documents across to the judge. I raised Rachel a loan from the time she was 13 until she was 25. I paid for everything. Groceries, utilities, clothes, books. I took out loans I'm still paying today. I pulled out the next document. This is my patent certificate. Hybrid propulsion system. Inventor Drew Carter. I held it up. And these, I said, pulling out a thick stack of printed emails, are job offers I rejected. Tesla, $380,000 a year. Toyota 420,000 Mitsubishi, $450,000. I pointed to the handwritten notes in the margins. Every single one of them has the same note. Can't leave Rachel. My voice was steady, calm, but there was something underneath it. Something that had been building for months. I gave up $485,000 a year to fix cars at $55 an hour. What? So I could be home for Rachel every single night. So I could be at her school plays, her parent-teacher conferences, her soccer games. I looked at Rachel. She still wouldn't meet my eyes. When she told me I wasn't real enough for her, I finally accepted the job I'd been turning down for 5 years. Not to abandon her, but because she made it very clear she didn't want me anymore. I sat down. Sam stood. Your Honor, we'd like to call our witnesses. Judge Bradley nodded. Proceed. Gary Henderson went first. He walked to the stand, told the judge exactly what he told me. Drew Carter turned down job offers from Tesla, Toyota, Mitsubishi, all of them. Why? Because he wanted to buy there for Rachel. He's the most dedicated father I've ever known. Next was Mrs. Barbara Stone. She sat in the witness chair and looked directly at Kira. I lived next door to Drew and Rachel for 10 years. She said, I watched Drew raise that girl alone. Every school event, every birthday, every time she was sick, he was there. She paused. And Kira, I saw her maybe twice in 10 years. Principal Janet Peterson testified over video call. Mr. Carter, who was the most involved parent I saw in 30 years of teaching. He never missed a parent-teacher conference, never missed a school play. He was always there. Mr. Warren Fields from the bank testified next. All saw the video. Mr. Carter took out a $92,000 personal loan for Rachel's tuition in 2018. He's been making payments every month for 6 years, 972. Never missed one, never late. Then came the last witness, Dr. Kenji Takahashi, on a video call from Tokyo. He bowed slightly when he appeared on the screen. "Your Honor," he said in careful English, "Mr. Drew Carter is one of the top 50 engineers in sustainable energy worldwide. We tried to recruit him for 5 years. He refused every time." "What?" "Because of his daughter." He paused. "He only accepted our offer after his daughter explicitly told him she did not need him anymore. This man did not abandon anyone, Your Honor. He was set free." The courtroom was silent. Judge Bradley set down her pen, took off her glasses, looked at Rachel, then at Kira. Her voice was cold. "Miss Carter," she said, "you told your father you didn't need him. You rejected him for a wealthier stepfather. And now, after that, stepfather, bankruptcy, you're suing the man who sacrificed everything for you." Rachel's face went pale. Jed Bradley turned to Kira. "And you, Mrs. Morgan, where were you for the past 12 years, while Mr. Carter raised your daughter alone?" Kira opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Judge Sharon Bradley set her glasses down, sat up straight, and looked sternly across the courtroom. "Mrs. Morgan," she said, her voice cold and clear, "you abandoned your daughter 12 years ago. Mr. Carter raised her alone. You have no standing to bring this lawsuit." Kira's face went red, but she said nothing. The judge turned to Rachel. "Miss Carter, the evidence is clear. Your father did not abandon you. You abandoned him. You told him he wasn't good enough. You rejected him for a wealthier stepfather. And when that stepfather went bankrupt and disappeared, you came back, not out of love, but out of need." Rachel's tears fell harder. "This court does not reward manipulation," Judge Bradley continued. "Case dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, the plaintiffs will pay Mr. Carter's legal fees in the amount of $18,500. The gavel struck. The courtroom was silent. Kira stood, grabbed her purse, and stormed out without a word. Mr. Kyle Stevens quietly gathered his files. Drew stood, exhaled, and turned to leave. "Dad." Rachel's voice cracked behind him. "Dad, please, please don't go." Drew stopped in the hallway. Rachel ran after him, fell to her knees. "Please," she sobbed. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Drew looked down at her, and for a moment, his face was full of pain. "Rachel, I didn't leave you. You left me. You told me I wasn't good enough. That broke something inside me. I'm still trying to fix." "I know," she cried. "I was stupid. I was selfish. I didn't know what you'd given up for me. Please give me another chance." Drew was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice steady but firm. "If you want a second chance, you're going to have to earn it. Come to Tokyo. Now it is my daughter who needs money. As someone willing to learn what real success means, work with me. Show me you understand what I sacrificed." Rachel nodded, tears streaming. "I promise." Drew turned and walked out of the courthouse. Samuel behind him. Rachel stood in the hallway, watching her father's back disappear. She wiped her tears. This time, determination burned clear in her eyes. 6 months later, Tokyo, October. I stood in the lab at the Tokyo Institute, watching Rachel carefully solder a circuit board. Her hair was tied back. She wore a white lab coat, no makeup. She was focused. She'd changed. Rachel had flown to Tokyo in May. She lived in a small apartment I rented for her, took the subway every day, cooked her own meals. She worked as my assistant, learning engineering from the ground up. She studied Japanese at night. She learned humility. One evening, we sat on the rooftop of the institute, looking out over the city lights. "Dad," she said quietly, "I'm sorry I had to lose everything to see what I had." I looked at her. "Sometimes we need to fall to learn how to stand, kiddo." She nodded, and we sat in silence. That same week, we finished our first joint project, a small hybrid prototype we designed together. Rachel took a photo of the two of us standing beside it and posted it online. The caption read, "This is my dad. He's not a CEO, he's not famous, but he's a genius who gave up everything to raise me. I was too blind to see it. Now I see who he really is, my hero, my real father." The post went viral, 2 million views, thousands of comments. 1 year later, Rachel and I moved back to Seattle. We opened a small garage together, but this time we both worked. We both smiled. We were happy. On Christmas Eve, I wrote in my journal, "Real success isn't what you achieve. It's who stands beside you when you have nothing." I lost my daughter once. I'm grateful to have her back, not because of money, but because of love. I closed the journal and looked up. Rachel was standing in the doorway holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Merry Christmas, Dad," she said, smiling. "Merry Christmas, kiddo." Snow fell softly outside the garage. Christmas lights flickered. This time, we'd spend it together, and that was all I'd ever wanted. So, that's my story. A true story. Not the kind of grandpa stories you hear at Thanksgiving. This one cost me everything before I got it back. If you're listening to this, don't be like I was. Don't sacrifice in silence and expect people to see it. Don't let pride stop you from showing your worth. I hid who I was for 12 years because I thought being her dad was enough. It wasn't not for Rachel. She needed to see the whole picture. Here's the lesson I learned the hard way. Real success isn't what you build in the world. It's what you build in the people you love. Money disappears. Titles fade. But the truth stays. And by God's grace, the truth set us both free. This true story taught me that sometimes love means letting go so they can see what they lost. And sometimes if you're blessed, they come back, not because they need you, because they finally understand you. These grandpa stories aren't just mine anymore. They're Rachel's, too. And maybe if you've got someone in your life you've been too proud to show the real, you don't wait as long as I did. If this true story touched you, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more grandpa stories like this, real, raw, and honest, subscribe to the channel.